When I walked into the courtroom in a rain-soaked coat, my sister glanced at her lawyer and smirked like this was already over. My dad let out a low chuckle, and my mom just huffed, staring past me like I was an inconvenience. Her lawyer stood and said, "Your Honor, this is a simple inheritance dispute." I didn't argue. I set one folder on the table, still damp from the rain. The judge stopped mid-sentence. His eyes went wide as he whispered, "I can't believe it's her." Silence swallowed the room. I had worked in that building for 2 years, not as an attorney, as a records clerk. I filed petitions, stamped certifications, and organized case documents until I knew every corner of that courthouse the way you only know a place when you stop noticing it. The judge had seen me nearly every week for 2 straight years. He'd watched me file at the clerk's window, sit in on open proceedings during slow afternoons, and read case summaries I had no business reading. He knew my face. He also knew I never showed up to anything empty-handed. My family had no idea about any of that. They knew I'd worked a county job for a while and hadn't asked what kind. My grandmother had changed her will 8 months before she died. The original split everything evenly between my sister and me. The new version left the house to me, a property that had been in our family for decades and was worth more than any of us had ever said out loud. My sister found out 3 weeks after the funeral and filed within the month. The claim, our grandmother had not been in her right mind. The change was the result of manipulation and undue influence. I had spent time with her near the end and used that access to alter what she intended. None of it was true, but it was written cleanly, filed properly, and the attorney she hired made it sound like settled back. I watched my sister prepare the same way she'd prepared for everything her whole life. Confidence borrowed from the assumption that things would go her way. She had our parents in the gallery, an attorney who'd done this before, and a story that read as grief if you didn't know her well enough to see it as performance. What she didn't have was a single document. The morning of the hearing, I drove to the courthouse in the rain. My folder had been on the passenger seat since the night before, already organized, already tabbed. By the time I reached the entrance, the rain had soaked the cover enough to leave watermarks along the edges. What was inside was sealed. My sister was already seated when I came through the doors. Her lawyer had his laptop open, legal pad squared beside it. She looked up when I walked in, assessed me for half a second, let a smirk cross her face, then turned back to her attorney. My father made a low sound in his throat like a man who already knew the score. My mother didn't look at me at all. I sat down at the respondent's table, set the folder in front of me, and folded my hands on top of it. Her attorney opened by saying the matter was simple. An elderly woman in declining health had been guided into a decision she wouldn't have made on her own. My access to her near the end was the reason the will changed. He used the word manipulation 3 times in 4 minutes. My sister nodded faintly each time, like someone listening to something they already know. When my attorney stood, she said we had one exhibit to introduce before any further argument. The judge nodded. She slid the document from the sleeve inside my folder and handed it to the clerk. It was a physician's cognitive assessment, conducted 14 months before my grandmother changed a word of that will. Ordered not by me or any family member, but by her primary care doctor as part of a routine evaluation. The results had been documented, signed, notarized, and filed with the county the same week they were completed. Full cognitive function. No signs of diminished capacity. No indicators of susceptibility to undue influence. Dated, stamped, and sitting in a public record nearly a year before my sister's entire claim had a reason to exist. My sister's lawyer stopped mid-sentence. He had been building toward an objection and the words simply dissolved. He looked at the document. He looked at his client, then back at the document. The judge read it once, slowly. Then he went back to the top and read it again. The room was quiet in the way that happens when everyone understands something at the same moment. Then the judge looked up, over his glasses, directly at my sister, and his voice came out level and final. "This document predates your entire claim by 14 months. My sister turned to her lawyer. Her lawyer turned to his notepad and wrote something I'm fairly certain was nothing. My mother's posture shifted in the gallery. My father, leaning back with his arms crossed since the hearing started, slowly set both hands flat on his knees. My dad's chuckle had been gone for about 6 minutes by then. Full story on the channel linked below.